Cadet Tilly Reeves was elbow-deep in a plasma conduit junction when the ship's alarm started screaming. She jerked upright, smacking her head on the access panel. Ouch, what? All hands, battle stations. We are under attack. This is not a drill. Tilly scrambled out of the maintenance shaft as the CNS Endeavour shuddered under weapons fire. The corridor lights shifted to emergency red. She was in Section 7, deep in the engineering decks, far from her assigned station. Cadet Reeves, report to engineering bay. Her comm barked. On my way. She ran, her tool belt jangling against her hip. The ship bucked violently. Tilly slammed into a bulkhead, stars exploding across her vision. The lights flickered, then died completely. Emergency backup kicked in 3 seconds later, dim barely enough to see, but that 3-second gap meant something terrible had happened. Her comma crackled. Complete failure in Section 7. Life support is offline. Oxygen processing, static. 20 minutes of air, 20 minutes. The crew in Section 7, living quarters, medical bay, half the ship's personnel had 20 minutes before they suffocated. Damage report. That was the chief engineer's voice, tight with controlled panic. Main processor took a direct hit, sir. The backup is behind a collapsed bulkhead. We can't reach it. We'd need cutting equipment and at least 15 minutes to— We don't have 15 minutes. Tilly's mind raced. The backup life support processor. She knew that system. She'd studied it 3 weeks ago. The access route through the main corridor was blocked, but there was another way. A maintenance shaft. Narrow, barely 40 centimeters wide. And the bulkhead collapse had made it structurally unstable. She keyed her comm. Chief, this is Cadet Reeves. I can reach the backup processor. Silence. Then, Reeves. Your location? Section 7. Junction 42. There's a maintenance shaft that bypasses the collapsed bulkhead. I can fit. That shaft isn't rated for Reeves. The integrity is compromised. If there's another impact— Chief, I can do this. Another pause. The ship shuddered again. Somewhere someone was screaming damage reports. Go, the chief said. But Reeves, if that shaft starts to collapse, you get out. That's an order. Yes, sir. Tilly ran. The shaft entrance was 3 corridors over. She yanked open the access panel and stared into darkness barely wider than her shoulders. No time to think. She dove in. The shaft was tight. Her shoulders scraped metal on both sides. She pulled herself forward with her arms, pushing with her toes, her tool belt catching on every seam. The metal groaned around her. Reeves. Status. Halfway there, she gasped. Sweat dripped into her eyes. The air was already getting stale. How much oxygen was in this tiny shaft? Enough. The metal groaned again. Louder. Another hit to that section and the whole shaft collapses. Someone said over the comm. Not to her, just thinking out loud. Tilly moved faster. The processor access hatch appeared ahead, a dim square of emergency lighting. She reached it, fingers fumbling with the release. It was jammed. The bulkhead collapse must have warped the frame. Come on, come on. She pulled her plasma torch from her belt. Terrible idea in a confined space with limited oxygen, but she was out of options. The torch flared. She cut through the lock mechanism, held her breath against the fumes, and shoved. The hatch popped open. Tilly tumbled into the processor room, landing hard on the deck. The backup life support system was right there. Status lights dead. The primary relay had been knocked loose, just knocked loose, not destroyed. A 2-minute fix if you knew what you were doing. She knew what she was doing. Her hands moved automatically. Bypass the damaged circuit. Reroute through secondary. Replace the blown relay with a spare from her belt. Test the connections. Please work, please work, please. She activated the system. The processor hummed to life. Lights flickered green. Somewhere in Section 7, oxygen started flowing again. Life support restored. Someone shouted over the comm. Section 7 is stable. Cheers erupted on the bridge. Tilly slumped against the bulkhead, breathing hard. Her hands were shaking. She'd done it. Somehow she'd actually done it. Reeves, report. The chief's voice was calmer now, almost gentle. Are you injured? No, sir. Just take your time, cadet. You've earned it. 4 hours later, after the hostile forces had been driven off and the ship secured, Tilly stood in the captain's ready room, still in her grease-stained uniform. Captain Morrison looked at her for a long moment. Chief engineer tells me you crawled through an unstable maintenance shaft to reach the backup life support processor. Yes, sir. He also tells me that shaft could have collapsed at any moment, that you were alone in the dark with limited oxygen. Tilly shifted her weight. Yes, sir. But someone had to fix it. You're not fully qualified. You're still in training. I know enough, sir. I knew I could do it. Morrison nodded slowly. 273 crew members were in Section 7 when life support failed. Medical staff, officers, civilians. All of them are breathing right now because a cadet decided to crawl through a death trap and fix a system she wasn't certified to touch. He stood, walked around his desk. Engineering aptitude scores don't mean much if you don't have the guts to use them when it counts. You saved lives today, Reeves. Not just because you had the knowledge, but because you didn't hesitate. He pulled a small case from his desk. Normally, promotions go through proper channels. Paperwork, review boards, but these aren't normal circumstances. Morrison opened the case. Inside were ensign rank insignia. By my authority as captain of this vessel, I'm granting you a field promotion to ensign, effective immediately. You've earned it. Tilly stared at the insignia, then at the captain. Sir, I was just doing my job. No, ensign. You went above and beyond your job. That's the difference. He handed her the insignia. Welcome to the officer corps. Try not to crawl through any more collapsing maintenance shafts. Tilly smiled despite herself. I'll do my best, sir. As she left the ready room, new rank pins in hand, she heard the chief engineer's voice over the comm. Attention engineering crew. Ensign Reeves reports for duty at O-600, and somebody get that maintenance shaft properly reinforced before she decides to use it again. What would you risk to save your crew? Comment and follow Sci-Fi Shorts for more stories about everyday heroes.